A lot has been made of the news that has come out in the past day or two regarding fights that are going to be made and fights that have been cancelled. Obviously, I am alluding to the fact that Dan Hooker is officially out of his fight against Justin Gaethje in 2 weeks' time, and Dana White has come out and said Sean O'Malley versus Merab dvalishvili is realistically the next bantamweight title fight that will take place. Now, a lot of content creators have come out since then. I wanted to see, a few other people's opinions on this, because I think I've had a very different opinion to a lot of people. A lot of people have said this is not really the fight everyone's wanting. They'd rather see maybe a Peter Yan, somebody else fight for the belt. And I was in two minds about this. I was like, either instead of doing Cejudo versus Song Yudong, do Cejudo versus O'Malley in maybe June, then O'Malley fights for the belt against whoever has it at the end of the year, potentially in October. Or what you do is you do Yan versus O'Malley 2 as a co-main event of the next bantamweight title fight, and then the winner essentially winners fight each other. They're going with a different approach. They're just putting Sean O'Malley right back in there in the title picture. Dana White's justification was, everybody wants to see this fight, so let's go and have it happen, essentially. People want to see the fight, let's do it. I think that realistically takes place in June. Obviously, they're needing a fight for UFC. Is it 316, I believe it is? Because 317 is arguably going to be Jones versus Aspinall in July. So that would probably take us to around the bantamweight title fight would be June. Realistically, I think they could maybe do it later than that. However, my opinion is, which is not the same to the public's consensus, is that I think Sean O'Malley is probably the not deserving of a rematch. However, is the most competitive stylistically for Merab. And people are saying, but he can't wrestle. O'Malley won rounds 3 and 5. Winning a 5th round against Merab dvalishvili is almost impossible. He had him running. in the 5th. O'Malley carries power all the way through the fight. He carries his speed all the way through the fight. I also believe that O'Malley is stylistically is the best chance of beating Merab, and the UFC are putting all their eggs in this one basket of, right, we'll give O'Malley the rematch. If he beats him, that sets up a trilogy, or potentially then the Peter Yan rematch, which would be worth a lot of pay-per-views, so they're probably looking at it from the point of view of, now we could do O'Malley Yan 2, or we could do O'Malley Merab and then O'Malley Yan 2 if O'Malley wins or loses. Now, I understand he's not the most deserving of the belt. However, stylistically and superstardom and how much you're going to bring in, how many people are going to watch Merab versus O'Malley 2? Quite a lot. Not because of what happened in the first fight, but because can O'Malley fix his mistakes? And realistically, it's a very tough ask for O'Malley to go out there and get the job done again and beat Merab. Merab is a smart guy. As much as he's an absolute idiot, he was even saying in interviews before the last fight, look, I know this guy's chance is to knock me out. Merab would literally do nothing for the first 2 minutes of a round, apart from buck himself around the cage, run around the cage, and then he would steal the rounds in the last few minutes. And round number 1 could have gone to O'Malley, and I know people absolutely hate it, because I feel like when you're from a certain region of the world, when you're this Caucasian who's known to have good cardio and good grappling, landing one takedown and doing nothing with it makes fans go like, oh my god, did you see that insane wrestling of Merab? And it's almost like O'Malley was landing much bigger punches on the feet. He snapped Merab's head back in the first round. Yes, Merab took him down, but Merab literally was in guard and did nothing with the takedown, and then he won the round. It just depends on... I've got a video coming out in a few hours about the American wrestling dynamic and how wrestling is so much so favoured in terms of scoring, even though it's not even in the criteria. And look, I think Merab won. I think Merab, just look at the fight, just round 3 and 5 you are O'Malley's. Round number 1, fair enough, could have gone either way. Merab takes it. It's not a robbery. I completely understand. I understand everyone's saying, rage baiting me online about how Sean O'Malley lost and all this, which he did. I would have loved him to win just for this channel and for the growth of the sport. However, I think you guys are pretty stupid to think Peter Yan is a better chance in a rematch, considering Peter Yan was beaten 5 rounds to 0 and actually battered in that fight. Whereas O'Malley had a lot more success than Peter Yan did across 5 rounds, and O'Malley won the last round, which is unheard of against a guy like Merab. Peter Yan had no success at all, and his face was busted up. O'Malley literally walked away with that fight, no damage. Another thing is O'Malley hasn't been able to wrestle. O'Malley had a torn labrum. He's been in too much pain to have hard wrestling sessions, and against a guy like Merab who's going to drag you into deep waters, you need to have those sessions. You need to know that mental muscle of being able to survive and escape situations when tired is working. To be honest, I think this fight is massively competitive, especially in June. O'Malley's going to take some time, reset a little bit. He'll also, being in there with Merab once, you now see his pace, you see his pressure, and you know you can stick in there. I think O'Malley will be a little bit more patient, just slide back, let Merab is the champ. Come and beat the contender, slide back, land another right hand. I think it's going to be a much more competitive fight than people think. Regardless of what you want to say about it shouldn't be next, I agree. It should not be the next fight. However, in the eyes of the UFC, in the eyes of the business, it is the next fight. And I guarantee you, regardless of how much you want this fight to happen or not, you will be excited fight week. You'll be like, fuck, O'Malley's fighting Merab again this weekend, fuck. It won't be like, oh, but no one wants to see this fight. It's the same way with Strickland and Duplessis too. Everyone was like, oh, we've already seen it. I don't want to see it again. It gets to fight week. It's like, okay, the butterflies are here. We're all fans of the sport. And we all want this sport to succeed. And whether you hate him or not, and whether you hate the special treatment or not, Sean O'Malley winning the bantamweight title is going to blow the division and the sport back into superstardom again, So regardless of what you think about that, regardless of what your political opinions are on who your favourite fighter is, I think it's very stupid and very ignorant to assume that anybody other than O'Malley can beat Merab. And people can beat him, of course, but stylistically this is the best matchup for him. Yan doesn't really have a chance. We've just seen what happened to Umar. Who else is really there at the moment? I was thinking Pantoja, but the UFC don't think Pantoja is nearly a big enough star to do that, so why would you do that? And I completely understand it. I think it's completely justified. And that's my opinion. I don't have a problem with it. I've got no problem with O'Malley versus Merab too. O'Malley's 30. O'Malley's still young. Merab's a bit older. If O'Malley can go out there and right that wrong, people will just put it down to, oh, he just had an off night against Merab. And then they might do the trilogy. Or they might give him Yan. If Merab needs a bit of time off, if he gets knocked out or something like that. We'll see. Maybe O'Malley moves up to 45 if he loses as well. So there's a few options. And if O'Malley loses, it'd be a very interesting dynamic. So fair play to him for being willing to jump in and put it all on the line in a rematch against Merab for the bantamweight title. I think a lot of people, when they get a taste of the gold, that's all they want. So just to preface it, I have no issue with O'Malley Merab too. I understand why the UFC are doing it. That's not me saying it's deserved. It's not a deserved title shot. He just lost 3 rounds to 2. That should be it. It should be another contender. You should be on a win streak to fight for a belt. That's my genuine opinion. Unless you're obviously a defending champion of 5-6 times, like a Volkanovski, for example. In other news, UFC 313 is put in jeopardy. Dan Hooker is out. He injured his right hand in sparring. He claims he was throwing a few meaty right hooks. It's a little Lucas Tracy reference there for you. And he cracked the top of someone's temple with his hand, landed funny on the knuckle, and his hand's fractured. Obviously, that's like 6 to 8 weeks recovery if it's a minor fracture. Realistically, we'll see him back in June, July now. It's a shame. I was so looking forward to this fight. When I seen this news, I was so upset. I was gutted. I was like, no, you've got to be joking me. I was really thinking Dan Hooker would go out there and beat Justin Gaethje and cement himself in the top of the division. Do you do the winner of Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker next? Or do you do the winner of Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler versus Gaethje next? Realistically, the winner of Chandler Pimblett is now going to fight the winner of whoever Justin Gaethje fights. People are calling for Gene Silva. I'm sitting back like, shut up. Like, get out of here with that nonsense, Gilbert Burns. Fiziev is a great option. I actually met Fiziev the other day. He's training at Tiger Muay Thai. I sat and had a conversation with him. There's a picture of me and him on my Instagram if you don't believe me. We stood and spoke for a little while. And I said, when you get back in there? He said, look, soon. I said, April, May. He was like, look, he's ready. And he's been tweeting saying, let's run it back in 2 weeks. Fuck it. He's in shape. Hanato Moicano is another option. However, I think the best option is Beneil Dariush. Obviously, he was meant to fight Moicano last month. Didn't happen. Moicano stepped in to fight Islam. I think career trajectory-wise, it would not be a good idea for Moicano to go in and fight Gaethje. Dariush is kind of in a weird limbo phase of his career. Beneil Dariush versus Justin Gaethje, I believe, is the fight to make on short notice. Beneil was in camp not long ago. He probably feels sharp. He's probably given his body some time to recover and relax and get a bit fat. However, I don't necessarily think that 4 weeks makes a massive difference in terms of your sharpness. Beneil Dariush can go out there and try to take him down as well. Obviously, Gaethje's no easy fight. However, Moicano and Dariush both have the grappling pedigree that is necessary to beat a man like Justin Gaethje if you're not going to strike with him. Fiziev has already fought Gaethje. That could be a fun one for 5 rounds on 2 weeks' notice. Could be an interesting one. I just want to see what the UFC come up with. I think it'll be Beneil Dariush if he's healthy. If he's able to make the weight, I believe it'll be Beneil Dariush, just because they kind of owe him. And if Dariush is calling for it, they do owe him. Dariush versus Gaethje is a really good, fun fight. Also, if Dariush gets a win, you can then straight away rebook Moicano versus Dariush for a top 3 spot in the division. So it works out really, really well. If Gaethje wins, he's back on track after the Holloway defeat. And if Dariush wins, you can do him versus Moicano again for a top 3 spot in the lightweight division, or a top 5 spot. And I think that makes a lot more sense business-wise, strategically, just in terms of just the overall dynamic of how the division's going to play out, how the division's going to work itself out. It's a lot better if you maybe have a fighter that's a little bit past it in the top 5, like a Dariush, maybe like a Dan Hooker as well, dare I say it, Oh, Pimblett versus Dariush in the top 5, then all of a sudden Pimblett beats Dariush and now he's fighting for a belt. Having these guys in the top 5 that take these opportunities are perfect for a Paddy Pimblett to fight and Ilia Topuria to fight, because it cements you as a top 5 contender, even if at this point in their career they maybe don't deserve to be in the top 5. That's my consensus. That's my breakdown. I'd like to see Dan Hooker back. I don't think they're going to rebook the fight. I think it realistically is going to be it's going to be Dan Hooker versus someone else in the top 5, maybe Fiziev, if you've just booked Dan Hooker to fight number 3 in the world, I doubt he's going to accept a fight anywhere lower than that. He might just sit and wait. He is injured at the moment anyway, so he's got options. He's got time to sit and wait. He is getting older. Give me your thoughts and your breakdowns on this whole situation. I'd love to hear them. And please subscribe, everybody. I'm really trying to push the channel to the moon. I'm trying to really grow it. Ignore the horrible hat, the horrible haircut, the horrible background, everything. I'm really working on it out here, okay? The videos and this specific style of content, I'm wanting to have more energy. I'm wanting to be better. However, I can't be too loud in this little, tiny, shitty building complex that I'm living in at the moment. So don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. Give me your thoughts. I don't mind O'Malley versus Merab. I don't mind Beneil Dariush versus Justin Gaethje. They owe Beneil Dariush. I think it should happen. It also opens a lot of doors in the top 5 for a Paddy Pimblett, for example. For an Ilia Topuria, for example, come International Fight Week. I'll see you guys all very soon. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and stay disciplined and hydrated, you little degenerates.